America is Babylon, and they'll say it's spiritual Egypt.
Spiritual Egypt. Misplaced America is spiritual Babylon.
Where's the Bible say that?
And sometimes other things like spiritual Assyria.
Misplaced America is spiritual Assyria.
I'm going to challenge him, especially when he says spiritual Assyria. And so on. Well, when I ask him about spiritual Assyria, he says Isaiah 19. Well, I jumped on that. I'm going to show you why in a second, but first let me show you the interaction.
Spiritual Egypt. Misplaced America is spiritual Babylon.
Where's the Bible say that?
Misplaced America is spiritual Assyria.
The Bible never says any of that.
Isaiah the 19th chapter.
Isaiah 19 says Assyria will join with Israel. This brother, it should be the leader of the camp. He's bringing up all the great points.
He's saying that America is to be identified as spiritual Egypt, spiritual Assyria, and I ask him where, and he says Isaiah 19. Now that's significant because in Isaiah 19, 16 through 25, it mentions salvation for foreign nations in the future, and it specifically mentions Egypt and Assyria. So it's strange he just said, hey, this place is going to get the judgment of Assyria and Egypt, and I ask him where that says that about America. He says Isaiah 19, but if you read Isaiah 19, it says in that day. It says it a number of times. Verse 16, verse 18, verse 19, verse 23, verse 24. And so clearly Isaiah is moving beyond his immediate historical horizon, and he's going to future events that are going to be realized in the Lord's time and in the Lord's purpose. So Isaiah is having a future vision that would be very shocking for an Israelite to hear, because it talks about an allegiance. And it even says they're going to speak the same languages in verse 18. So there's some kind of unification here. And then it says the Egyptians are going to build an altar, just like Jacob. They're going to erect a monument at the border. There's going to be this pillar, and it's going to testify to the fact that the Egyptians now serve the same God as their Israelite neighbors. The Egyptians are going to cry out to the Lord, and that the Lord will rescue them in verse 20. It says just like Israelites, they'll make sacrifices and vows in verses 21 through 22, and they'll acknowledge Yahweh in verse 21. And then it also says very similar things about another arch rival, Assyria.
So I'm going to turn to Isaiah 19 real quick here.
This being the last captivity, this is where we will be brought back, man. So that's letting you know that
the gentleman who's a soccer fan
America, man,
brought up Isaiah 19. Now you shouldn't be wearing a Columbus Crew jersey, I'm just saying.
But we're going to get into Isaiah 19 with it. Well, I know it gets kind of hectic here because they're not really letting me converse, so I had to turn on the microphone. I'd rather just have a regular conversation with them. They let me converse, so I had to turn on the microphone. I'd rather just have a regular conversation with them. But when I have to turn on the speaker, we are going at the same time. But that's why I do this video with a commentary, so you can hear it in a more calm setting.
But here's what Isaiah 19 says. Thus Yahweh will make himself known to Egypt, and the Egyptians will know Yahweh in that day. They will even worship with sacrifice and offering, and they will make a vow to Yahweh and pay it. Hey guys, listen to this, because he brought up Assyria as being a wicked nation. But listen to Isaiah 19. Yahweh will smite Egypt, smiting but healing, so they will return to Yahweh, and he will be moved by their entreaty and heal them. Isaiah 19, which he just brought up, literally says Yahweh will heal Egypt. Now watch this. In that day, there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. You shall say that? And the Assyrians will come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Assyria, and the Egyptians will worship.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Recha HaKodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to your brethren, your fellow believers, your affiliate camps. Shalom even to your sincere sisters. Shalom to your sincere brethren, and shalom to the elect. So anyway, I want to touch on this video here with Vocab Malone with Isaiah 19. Now, he tripped up the Sakari San Francisco because those guys probably shouldn't have been out there. But this can be a long discussion, but I just want to hit the points. His point is that he's making is that because it says Egypt, right, this is going to the other nations. He's opening up salvations to the other nations. Now, clearly, he would say salvation goes to all nations. He wouldn't have to root out Egypt. So all of a sudden now Egypt is his people, the same people he destroyed, right, to save the Israelites. But now the Egyptians have become his people. When we know even amongst ourselves, there's only going to be a remnant that's going to be delivered. So this is Christianity. Now, one thing I want to go into is the fact that when you look at prophecy, a Christian is clueless because the word America is not even in the Bible, right? So it's up to the prophets in the latter end, the last days, to be able to figure out what is America, what are the kingdoms, according to prophecy, what would happen in this country, what would be the modern day Babylon. But yet his friends that's over in the Holy Land, they kind of have their take on them being the olive tree and everybody must come up under them, but no argument with them. But anyway, I'm going to keep bringing that up about that guy Vocab Malone. But when we look at Isaiah 19, we're talking about modern day America, right? There's times when it's talking about the past, and the present and the future, right? So let's go to Ecclesiastes 1:9. This is the go-to scripture, Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that has been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. And there's no new thing under the sun. How do you get around that? Empires fall and empires rise, right? When you look at the Roman Empire, this is it all over again, along with Assyria, Babylon, along with Greek, Rome, Egypt. As I put in the intro, doesn't it say, what does it say? And their dead bodies shall lie in the great city called Sodom of Egypt, right? So let's go to Isaiah 19:2. Well, no. Let me go. Ecclesiastes 9. The thing has been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything where it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been of old, which has been before us. There is no remembrance of former things. We're talking about reincarnation. Yes, empires reincarnate. Look at Petra. Look at Greek, Rome. You see all that here. Look at D.C. Look at all your buildings. Get a bird's eye view and look down on every city. It looks like the clefts of the rocks that Obadiah was talking about. In the book of Genesis, Esau, Edom, right? But it's still for us, right? Goes on to say, it have already been of old time, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after. Of course, the scholars in their churches and their apologetics, they will have their explanation on that. So when it all boils down, this is a spiritual thing. This is why even in Christianity, you got hundreds of different views on what the Bible say. For whatever reason, Vocab's mindset is what our version say. Not what everybody else say, because they believe in white Jesus and everybody can be saved. But anyway, let's see if this doctrine he's saying makes sense. Blessed be my people of Egypt, right? See what this is saying. Oh, I have it up right here, Revelation 11:8. And their dead bodies shall lie in that great city, right? Which is a people, which shall spiritually be called Sodom of Egypt, where our Lord was crucified. So the Christians will say, well, it was talking about in the Holy Land, which we know he was cut off. His people are here. See, you have to believe his people are here in order to understand the prophecies. But again, why is it that city in Jerusalem called Sodom of Egypt? Although they're doing those kind of things there. But this is the great city, right? Again, let's show you why this is so flawed, right? Isaiah 60:12. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Now he'll say, this was back in the ancient times, right? But we understand, as Romans 15:4 says, everything written aforetime is for our learning. Why does it say that? Because of Ecclesiastes 1:9. There's no new thing under the sun, right? Now when we go to Acts 21 in 37 because people get confused because they see Egyptian and think it's just talking about a heathen nation. Right? Every time you see Greek, they think, okay, it's a heathen nation. Anyway, that's the racism. That's what that is. In other words, you Negroes and Latinos, Native Americans, you were nothing. Before the 1500s, you weren't nothing. 1600s, you weren't nothing. Anyway, and as Paul was led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek? Art not thou that Egyptian, which was before these days, made us an uproar and let us out into the wilderness, 4,000 men that were murderers? So you got to understand that you got Moses also called his son Gershom, which also meant stranger, right? You had Israelites who was calling themselves Egyptians, right? When you look at America, if a prophet, let's say a prophet of old, which they were, discussing America, and America is not listed in the Bible, what do you call that city that you're talking about that's going to be destroyed, like in Jeremiah? What do you call that city if you don't know the name of it? And although the visions show you it's doing the same damn things that the Assyrian Babylonians did and everybody and every other great empire, what do you call it? This is why it's called Babylon the Great, right? It just didn't say America. So anyway, this proves that, let's go to Jeremiah 30:16. It says, Therefore all they that devour thee, and then we'll go into some blue letter. Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. Is this a future prophecy? But they'll read and they'll go according to the scholars. See, it happened in 78. Everything is 70 AD with these guys. So now, is all the adversaries got to go into captivity that did what they did to the Israelites at once? This is what has to happen. And they that spoil thee shall be their spoil. And all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. We see this in Joel the 3rd chapter as well, when he said, I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the Grecians. But again, they don't understand that scripture either. Or what did he say? I was to the hands of the Sabians, Salakia. Right? But they don't understand that either. Right? So let's go a little bit into Isaiah 19. Isaiah 19 and 23. In that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt, Assyria, and Assyria shall come into Egypt, and Egypt into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. Right? You got different factions of Israelites. So we're going to go to Isaiah 11. Let's go to Isaiah 11 and see how, why this doctrine that they bring out doesn't make sense. This is, see, only thing they can look on is a level of understanding of a carnal nature. They can never see in the spiritual side of it, they can't see that. So when you go to Isaiah 11 and 11, it says, And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again a second time to recover the remnant, of his people, that shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt, right? And you would have our people who will be calling themselves the Egyptians and the Assyrians, right? But this is why we look at this as this place is Assyria and Egypt. This is what the brothers are saying. And our people are amongst this doctrine. Our people are calling themselves Americans. And he's going to recover the remnant of his people from America. The same that people are calling ourselves, what we're calling ourselves. So this is clear right here. If it's blessed be his people Egypt, why is he going to deliver people out of Egypt? His people. It said a remnant of his people shall be left from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and Shinar, and from Himoth, and the islands of the sea. Why is it saying this? And he shall set up an sign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Wait a minute. I thought everybody had a hand in this salvation. This would not have to be said if that's the case. This definitely would not have to be said. Now we're going down here to Isaiah 19 and 25. It says, whom the Lord of hosts shall bless, saying, well, in that day shall Israel be a third with Egypt and with Assyria, and even blessings in the midst of the land. So here you have a situation where our people are called Egyptians, but you're living in the land of Egypt, right? It says, when the Lord of hosts shall bless, saying, blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of the hands, and Israel, my inheritance. So he's clearly saying, blessed be my people. Now let's go to another definition. I want to go to another translation, the Septuagint. This is called the Britain Septuagint translation. It says, blessed be my people that is in Egypt, and that are among the Assyrians, and Israel my inheritance. This is what it says. All the other translations say, blessed be my people of Egypt. But for whatever reason right here, they left out in or of. They left that part out. So when it says, blessed be my people, blessed be Egypt, my people, the original translation was, blessed be my people, blessed be Egypt, blessed be my people, right, in Egypt, right? And Assyrian, the work of the hands, and the Israel, and Israel, my inheritance. So we're going to go to a little blue letter where we look up, blessed be my people. It says, saying blessed be Egypt, my people, H 5971. That's what it says. A nation, people, persons, members. And when you're going down to the Strong's definition, I always encourage to do that. Keep scrolling. 86004. It says people, congregated, a unit, specifically a tribe, those of Israel. This is what it says. This is why it says, blessed be my people, Egypt. His people. You can't have his people who are Israelites and his people who are Egyptians. And you can, because they are actually playing as Egyptians. But you can't have two nationalities calling themselves one. It's either they're Israelites or they're Egyptians. And that's where the confusion comes, because in this language, you have people who call themselves different things. So this is why it says, blessed be my people, Egypt. My people, we always know the Lord calls his people of the Israelites. And the scholars know this. But the universalists, reformationists, reincarnated, they're trying to keep you entrapped in that slave mentality, that slave Christianity. That's all it is. It's slave Christianity. And that's where our people at. So also when you look on this, when it says my people, it says kinsmen and kindred. What is the kindred? We see that in Revelation 7 and 9. For all people, nations, kindreds, and tongues. Nations go to ethnos, which really means of the same nature or genus, and sometimes it can be of other nations. But then it says kindred, so they put it together. People, kindreds, and tongues. And when you look up all of them, it goes to one form of nationality. And kindreds go to, I think the Greek word is phule, which means all nations that descend from the 12 sons of the patriarch of Jacob. I mean, it's really just that simple. They can't see it. Acts 13 and 15. Let me go ahead. 16. Then Paul stood up, beckoning with his hand, and said, Men of Israel, and ye that fear God, give audience. The God of this people Israel chose our fathers and exalted the people when they dwelt as strangers in the land of Egypt with an high arm and brought them out of it. So that clearly tells you right there, our people can be called Egyptians, right? It also proves that when you look at Egypt in general, this is Egypt all over again. So when you see you can see the Egyptians against the Egyptians, you can see people fighting against one another. America, in itself, an insurrection, which is brought out in the Apocrypha, right? So it doesn't always mean you could say Egypt, our people are in Egypt. You can also say the fact that this is Egypt, and Egypt will fight one another, right? The Egyptians against the Egyptians, right? And in Hosea 1, it talks about how the children of Israel, and they will come together and point themselves one head. But, I just try to sum this up in a short time. That's all I have on that. Shalom.